There are many types of divination: clairvoyancy, astrology, dowsing, tarot, but there's one in particular that has captured the world in a pretty polarizing way: the Ouija board. Today let's talk about the Ouija board, where it came from, how we got to this point, like its history, how it became so stigmatized, and kind of where we're at now. Because the Ouija board has always fascinated me. I don't know about you guys. I think if you're into the stuff I'm into, you've probably come along the same path I have, that the Ouija board's always been kind of fascinating to you. So let's look into that a little bit today. The history of the Ouija board is not what I expected at all. It's a lot more commercial than I was expecting, and I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of a letdown, but let's just get into it. So I found one paper from Brown University saying that talking boards were pretty common in China around 551 BC. They have quite a bit of evidence to show that. And there might have even been talking boards in ancient Rome. But I couldn't find any like pictures or drawings or anything. And there was just like the one paper. Although in another article I found like they mention talking boards being a thing in ancient Rome as well. So maybe that was a thing. I just feel like there would have been more evidence or pictures or drawings or something, like showing what they had found to show why they believe that. But I mean, I felt like talking boards, Ouija boards, because that's what they were called before the Ouija name was made up. I feel like they had probably been around for hundreds, thousands of years being used. But we just don't have a ton of evidence to prove that. But as long as like tarot and dowsing rods and pendulums have been around, you would think talking boards would have been around that long as well. So it just feels like there should be more evidence that we could find, but there just isn't. So after that, we have this kind of huge gap where there just isn't anything until the 1800s. So if you've looked into any kind of paranormal stuff, you probably know that in the 1800s there was this huge spike, this rise of spiritualism. I mean, can you blame them? It wasn't a great time to be alive. I mean, people died in childbirth and of diseases and in war. Like, the average age of death, like to die at, was like 55. So, you know, people didn't live long. And so you probably wanted to talk to the people that you love that passed on. So finding ways to communicate with them, pretty obvious next step. So spiritualism was a huge thing. The Fox sisters was a huge thing in the spiritualism community. And so with that, talking boards became more of a mainstream thing. And it wasn't stigmatized either. Like, when people talked about talking boards or spirit boards in the 1800s, it wasn't like a, oh no, like they're using a talking board thing. It was just kind of a thing that people did. Like, it wasn't looked down on. It wasn't, yeah, it was just kind of a thing people did, which was kind of cool. At this time, I mean, especially with the Fox sisters, mediums, seances, and all these different forms of divinations just really took off. And here's where Elijah Bond saw an opportunity to make some serious money. In February of 1891, you started seeing ads for wonderful talking board, and it promised never failing amusement and recreation for all classes. Could tell when this was coming out. And this talking board that he patented and came out with and started selling really took off. And I mean, it was this huge hit. Like, the world freaked out. Probably not in the way you'd expect. In a good way. Everyone wanted one. Everyone had one. It was this parlor game that everyone had. It was sold specifically without instructions, so that people kind of had to find their own way to play it. Some people used it for, trying to communicate with the dead, but then some people just use it as like a parlor game. Like, I don't know exactly how they played it because we don't really have that information, because it wasn't sold with instructions on how to play. So everyone kind of just did their own thing. So originally it sold for $1.50, and they made a ton of money off of it. Elijah Bond and his partners, they had their own toy company, and then that sold eventually to Parker Brothers, and then eventually that sold to Hasbro, and they still have the rights today. And I mean, they're still making a ton of money off of it. I mean, when you see all these movies like Battleship, and I know there's others, but then Ouija Origin of Evil, like, it's all owned by Hasbro. Like, they're getting that movie money, man. Like, good job. You took a little board game and you're making you're making movie money off of it. Like, props, well done. That's a good hustle. And that funny name, Ouija, well, Elijah Bond said that he got that name while playing on the board. He asked the spirits what he should call his new invention, his new game, and that's what came through on the board. Ouija. So he went with it. And that's how it went for a long time. Everyone just kind of doing their own thing. Like, it was a parlor game, it was a fun novelty, some people used it for divination and contacting the dead, and everyone just kind of did their own thing and left it at that. And it was all cool. How it should be. And then the tipping point. And this is what blows my mind. This is insane to me. What did it? It's 1973, and The Exorcist hits theaters. And in The Exorcist, little Regan, the main character, I mean, I guess you could argue the mom's the main character. Anyway, uses a Ouija board as a game for fun, like it's meant to be used, and then shortly after becomes possessed by a demon. And oh my God, the world panicked. People lost their minds thinking that the devil or a demon was going to come out of all these Ouija boards and possess them. And that's where it started. Like, if you look back at it, that's where it started. The Exorcist. That's where all the panic over Ouija boards began. And that to me is insane. That a single movie did that. And then you start seeing it in other movies and other horror stories, and it's just being this Ouija board, this game, this tool for communication is being used as this thing to instill fear in people and panic, and that's how it was for so long. And I know that, like, Satanic Panic is credited for starting in the 80s, but my personal belief, man, if you really look into it, I think it started before then. I honestly think Satanic Panic started with The Exorcist. And it was just this long, winding road of people looking at anything that could possibly be related to Satan or demons, and they latched onto it and they thought this has to be eradicated or the devil's gonna come through and get us. And I think it just really hit its height in the 80s, because I think if you look at it, really look at it, The Exorcist changed this country in this huge way that I don't think anyone could have possibly planned for. When you really look at it, it's astounding how people let a movie, I mean a book, really, it was a book first. But yeah, they let this book create such panic and fear inside them that it caused this whole satanic panic movement. It's insane to me. It's insane. So Ouija boards have definitely evolved since, the beginning, and especially since the 70s and the 80s. There's so many different kinds now, and I will admit the Stranger Things one is pretty cool. I kind of dig it. But they're a lot less stigmatized now. There are definitely still the people out there that are not okay with them. For the longest time, I was super scared of them and wouldn't go near one. But I've made one. I've still never used one. I find myself pretty much, week by week, day by day, just more and more wanting to use one, just because I think as like someone who loves the paranormal and all that stuff as much as I do, I feel like eventually you just have this like bucket list of things you need to do, and using a Ouija board's on that list. And so eventually I just have to try it, right? But I believe anything can be used as a tool for communication with the other side. Obviously, I have used digital recorders, dowsing pendulums. I'm into tarot. If you guys have watched me long enough, you know, I'm into the paranormal. I know there's more out there than we can see, and I believe we can communicate with it. So if you can channel that through a Ouija board, okay. Do I believe they work 100% of the time? Probably not. Digital recorders, pendulums, they don't work 100% of the time. I've had that. So I think it's like anything else. It just depends. Yeah. I know there's a lot of people that believe they're fake. They don't work at all. I don't know. I don't have any experience with them, so I don't have an opinion, honestly. I think it'd be cool if they worked. How could I be into the paranormal and not believe or want to believe that they work? So, So what do you guys think? Are they legit? Are they evil? Could you use them to talk to people or things on the other side? Have you ever used a Ouija board? Was it a good experience or a bad experience? You should let me know in the comments down below. And do you agree with me that satanic panic started before the 80s? Because I personally think it's a real thing. And I want to know if other people agree. Because I think there's some legitimacy to my claim there. Alright, I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this video on Ouija boards. Like I said, let me know how you guys feel about them. I genuinely am interested in people's opinions, because it is so it's polarizing. Everyone has different opinions and thoughts, and I really want to know what you guys think. So yeah, let me know. Alright, I will see you guys later.